Thanks for clicking the link. Today in this video I'm going to cover about how I started learning the Python scripting. I'm not an expert till now. I'm in my learning phase and my learning is ongoing. But I remember in my initial days of learning the Python, what I did, I searched on Google and found many websites and video with basic of Python. I learned from them. Those were nice videos, thanks to them. But how that Python I can use in my DWDM and telecom network automation or write a script. This information I didn't found anywhere. And many times I got confused with advanced Python like function and class, how to use them in my script or automation. That was really confused for me. So what I did in initial, I started writing small script based on different formulas and calculations. And later on, I started adding different function and class in my script. So today, I'm going to share the similar one with one of the common formula that we are using for OSNR calculation. In this video, I will write a script from scratch as a beginner. Will not use function or class in start. Later on, we'll add the function and class and will not go with basic of Python because this information you can easily find on Google or YouTube. So before going to script, here is the quick definition about OSNR. OSNR is optical signal to noise ratio and is used to quantify the degree of optical noise on an optical signal. So we can say it's a ratio of signal power to noise power. And we can calculate the OSNR with one of common 58 formula that we got. And the formula is OSNR is 58 plus input power minus span loss minus noise figure minus span loss number of span. So the same we'll use in our script. And in this video, I used Python and PyCharm. So here are the links to download Python and PyCharm if you want. And I used some function in this script. Here are the list of some function. So I used print function that is used to specify message to the screen or our output result. Input function to ask the user input. Range function so that my script can run within a specific range. While function to execute my set of statement with a specific time and till the time my condition is true. Try and except for error handling, like if any error I'm getting in my script, to handle that I use try and except. And in the last I used function that is called a block of code which only run when it is called, and class that is like an object constructor or a blueprint for creating object. For more details about this function, you can search on Google or YouTube. You will find more details and more function as well. And this is the PyCharm window, how it's look. On the right side, we can write the code. On the green button, we can run the code, and in the output, we'll get to the bottom side. So let's start. Green here we can write the code, and we can run the code. Just example, I write print. A common one we use hello world, and I can just click on the green icon, and it will execute and will get output. Okay. So to write our script, we'll remove this one. First, we'll write the purpose or what is this script called on the top. I will write this is the script for OSNR calculation. the reason behind writing this on top, if I'll share this script with someone, how the user will get to know what's the use of this script. So on the top, it will write the script description that will be helpful or beneficial. So I will write the formula also here. Formula used here is OSNR is 58 plus input power minus span loss minus noise figure minus 10 log number of span. Same, if we want to print this one, we can print also. So whenever this script will execute, this will be the first statement on the script. Like I can write this is the script, and to add in the next line, I add this one. Formula used here is this one. So if I print now, this is the output will get. For now, I will just comment this. Later will enable. Now, the first step, I will make my formula to work in Python. For that, I will use the variable. Variable we called in Python where we can store the information. So I will create some variable with different entity. So I will create a variable for input power, span loss, noise figure, and span. For input power, I will create power in, and I will just define a hard-coded value as 5, span loss as just 20 dB, noise figure as 3 dB, and number of span is like 10. And the formula is OSNR 58 plus power in minus span loss minus noise figure minus. Now to use 10 log, we'll import the math module here so that we can use the math function here. Import math, and we'll write math dot log 10 and span. And I'll just print the OSNR. If I'll execute my script, I'll get 39.1. Just to check whether my script is working fine or not, we'll make some changes here. 17 and my span is 13, and I'm getting 41.80.60. Now the first things, I don't want so many decimal in the output. I want to round off my value up to 2 or 3 decimals. For this, I will use the round function. Round, and will add here comma how much round of you want, up to 2 decimal, and will execute, will get 41.89. It's round of the value. And I can modify my output OSNR is, and will use the dot format function here, so that whatever value we are getting will show with this format. So if I execute now, I'm getting OSNR is 41.89. We can more modify the output message line. Okay, I will add the unit also. So OSNR is now, if I execute, OSNR is 41.890. So that's look nice. Now I want to make my script with user input. For that, I will use the input function. So in power variable, I will use input function here, and will specify some information. What is this input? Enter the input power. And if I'll now execute my code, simply asking the user to enter the power. Here I can add any power. So similar way we'll make for all. Input, enter the span loss. I'll just copy this one and use for all. Noise figure, enter the number of span units. Okay, I'll make some short, enter input power, enter noise figure, enter number of span. And if I execute my script now, I'm asking the user to enter the input power. I entered 4, number of span is 6, my noise figure is 7. Number of span in my network, so I can add 2 or 3. But I got one error, type error, unspotted operand type for integer and string. So why I'm getting this error? Because the input I'm receiving in the string format, and here we have an integer. So to check this, I will use print and will print the type of input here, and I will execute my script. If I enter here 5, it is showing me it is string. Similar way, I can check for 58, and I execute 5. Okay, so above is string and here is integer, and Python is not supporting. So one things I can make here, I will receive the user input and convert the input into integer. For this I will use integer function. So now if I execute my script, I will add 5. It is showing both value are integer. Our input is also showing as integer. But what if I will just add 5.5? I'm again getting value error. Because in Python we have the different data types. So now I have added 5.5, that is float number, and that is not supported with the int function. So this is not good for my script. I remove the int. So what I can do here, because in the DWDM most of the time we'll put the value in float, in dot decimal. So we'll receive the user input in string and will convert the string into float. For this, I will define a new variable pin1, and I will convert this power into float. And same pin1 will use for our formula. So same way we can define for all. Noise figure and span 1 is float of span 1. Now we are using this variable, so same changes I will make in my code here. Span 1 and this. And now if I'll execute my script, I will add 4.5. Okay, it's accepting, 6 also accepting, 6.7 accepting, 5 output. Now the next thing, user entering the input power. Just example, like I executed my script here, I added 100. But 100 in input power is not a realistic number. I need a realistic number that should be like something that is valuable in our DWDM network. and I want to control user to enter the value within that specific range. For this, here in my script, then I will use a Python function range. Here we'll define the range of user input, and we'll make our script in such a way so that whenever user will enter the data out of range, we'll again ask the user to enter the correct value in the range. For that, we'll use while. So we'll add while power in, not in range of, we can add some range -35 to 11. Enter, the indentation came here, so I can just press it. So power in input. As now power in the loop. So to execute this, we need to create dummy variable. So now my loop can work. So if I run this one, it's asking the input power. I will add enter. Again asking enter the input power. So 60. Again asking the input. Now enter the within the range 5. Still it's asking the input. The reason is again the same input power we are getting in the string format. And here we have the range for integer. So here also within the loop, to come out from the loop, we need to define a new variable that we'll call P1, and will receive the user input and will convert into integer and store in P1. And here we'll run our loop on P1. So our loop will run if P1 not in range. What is P1? P1 is input and we are converting into integer. To execute this, we'll define P1 also as a dummy variable on the top. And it will run the code now. I'll enter 6, accepting. I'll add 60, not accepting, 5, accepting. But one problem is still here, like if user has entered 5, again we'll got value added. So to handle this, we'll use here, we'll receive the user input in string. First, we'll convert that into float, and then we'll convert it. So for this, in this here, I will write float, and so now the user input in string first convert into float, then go to integer, and my loop will work. So if I execute this one, let's add -50, not working, 3, working. Rerun, 4.6, accept. So now similar loop we need to create for all. I'll just copy this one, enter here, S1, I will just take the S1 name and the range or span loss like 1 to 50 dB. And we'll define S1 here for in float of span loss. And we'll create the dummy variable on the top. Similar for all. This is the N1 in the range. N1 is int float noise figure, and we'll define on the top N1 is equal to this one, and that's equal to this one. Similar for span. While span 1 not in range, Here we'll add sp1 is in float of span count, and we'll define on the top sp1 and span. Now if I'll re-execute my enter the input power at 3.4, 6.8, 5.7 and 20, we get 47.54. Now we can modify the message also, like how user get to know what's the within the range value. Like just example, if I'll add here asking the user to enter the input, so we can modify the message here also. Range is in between -35 to 11 DWDM. Same we can define for all. Range in between to 1 to 50 dB. Similar here, range in between, and similar here. So now whenever user enter wrong 100, asking the range, within the range enter. And here if I'll add -35, it's accepted. But in the last here, if I'll add the highest 50, it's not accepted. Still in the loop. Because in Python, this is the minimum from where the range is started, and it will count -1. Like it will count only till 49 in that case. So one way, like we can modify our range, like if we want to give 11 range, we can change it to 12, or if you want to use 10 DDM is the highest, we can take as 11, and similar here, I want to use 50, so 51, 51 here, similar, 51 here. Now if I execute my script, 10, 50 is the highest, 50 is the highest. Now the next part is, if we enter and user has entered not the range, it's some alphabet, and enter to get a value add, and Python will stop executing. So to handle this, we are using the Python function try and except for this value add, and we'll use within the loop also. So in while p1 not in range, we'll use try user input and except of this value error will print a message to user. Invalid entry, try again. So now if I'll re-enter my script and I'll add something showing me invalid entry, try again. We can handle more error also based on our script one by one in similar way. Now we'll add this for all try. We'll do the indentation using the tab key, except here also try, use the indentation, except value key. Here also I will use try, use the indentation. Now if I'll execute, I'll add anything, invalid entry 5, spotted something, not spotted 6, spotted, invalid entry Spotted 5, spotted invalid entry, not spotted 6 is spotted, and we got effective and to. So this is almost, we have completed our script. Now if we want to add this in the function, so we can create the function also. So I will take just example for one function. We'll create here. To define the function, we'll use def and the function name. For this one span, I will use span underscore count, and now we need to do the indentation. So I will use tab key. And when this function will execute, I want something in written form, so that some value will return. So I will add return. I need here the span, number of span user. So I will add return span. Similar way, we can create a function for all def noise figure count, and we'll do the indentation here also. And we'll get in return, but here the return is noise figure variable. Similar here, def function for span loss. We'll do the indentation here. And in the return, store span loss, and similar on the top. For def function for input power, and we'll return here also our input. And if we want to create, we can create a function for last one also for OSNR calculation. The function for OSNR calculation. So I will just this one. And this one. Now, how we can run the code function? So here in the last, if I just want to call this function, I can directly call. I just add the function name SPC and I will run. So this is directly asking enter the number of span. I will add 5, 56 or 5. Here we are not getting any output because we didn't print. So if we want to print something, we can print as well number of span. So if I rerun my code as 5, we got the 5 as output. So function is useful, you can call anywhere, like in the entire script you can call any function and you can troubleshoot also. Like if you want to call the input power, so I use this function. I will use just here input function. If I run, it will ask for enter the input power. Similar for noise figure function, I'll just execute, it will ask for noise figure. Now if we want to execute this one, OCC, here we are getting some red icon because now this value power in, span loss, noise figure and span are not part of a function. So we need to change here the power in to function. This is the function we need to call. So whenever we call this function, it will call power in and it will call input power function. Similar here for span loss, we'll use this function. For noise figure, we'll use this function. and for span calculation, we use this function. Now, if I'll just call OCC, I'm calling this function. It will first go to power in one. It will call input power function. Similar span loss, it will call this function, and will get our output. Let's see. If we enter the input power 5, okay, span loss 3, noise figure 5, 6, getting the output. And our complete script is running with the same error handling and all. So this is how function works. So now if we want to define a class here also, so that also we can define. For that, we can go to our code on the top here, and we can define a class and can give it name OSNR and use the indentation here. So use the indentation using the tab key. We need to do the indentation for all. First we'll do the indentation. Later on we'll make some changes here. So I'm making some changes. And this also will add in our class. Now in the class, we'll add one more function. That function we called as initialization. And we are not running anything, we are just returning what the function. Use of this one, whenever we are using initializing, it is called all the function within the class. So for this, I will use this shell and add here shell. When we run this class, it will run shell, all the shell. So we'll add here also, we'll add here as well, here also, and similar for here also. So in my class, all the functions will initialize. The next change is now we are not calling a function directly, we are calling within a class. So we need to change this float and input power function to shell dot. What is this function? Now we are calling float in the class for shell function. This one. Similar for shell dot span loss. Similar for shell dot noise figure, and same for here span count. Now I will remove this one. Now my class is defined. I can assign a user to specific class, a user 1, OSNR, and now if that user wants to call any function, specific function, we can call here SPC. Suppose we just want to call this span count. So if I'll re-execute, asking the directory to enter the span, I can add 5, 6. Now I want to run my script. I will add OC function, this function. So I will run the script. It will ask 5, 6, 7, 8, and we'll get our OS. So this is the way I used to do the automation, and started writing from initial, then add the function and class. If you like the video, Please like and subscribe and write in comment section about your feedback. Also refer my blog on www.opticstrans.com and my Facebook page opticstrans.learn. Thanks for watching.